Good evening and welcome to our show, Going Public. I'm Renee Fonseca, and joining us tonight are the Terrebonne Parish School District Curriculum Specialist Nathan Cotton, Sarah Adams, and Lacey Oliver. I want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. You're going to be here going over each of your curriculum areas, but thank you again for taking time out of your day.
Sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
First off, we have Mr. Nathan Cotton, the STEM Curriculum Specialist, with us today. How have you been doing?
So far, so good.
So far, so
No
good.
hurricane this year.
Exactly. I understand some initiatives in science are not necessarily new, but can you share some details about the science curriculum?
Sure. So currently in grades 3 to 8 for science, we use a curriculum called FOSS, which stands for Full Option Science System, and this is our fifth year using FOSS in those grades. And outside of COVID and the impact of the negative impact of the hurricane and whatnot, we've seen a really positive change in science instruction in classrooms, and most notably. And one of the reasons that we chose FOSS is that it has kids doing science. And that's really important for kids to be doing hands-on activities. And you'll see some of the pictures being shown of the materials that students are using. FOSS provides the investigations and the steps for teachers to guide those activities, but most importantly, it has the materials to do those activities in the classroom. And again, 90% of it's hands-on. Teachers guide the students as they go through. You can see them using magnets and trying to light a bulb, and there's a lot of inquiry-based learning. And so the district purchased those kits, and they purchase consumable materials each year as they go through it. And so it's really been an effective curriculum in those grades for us.
And how are some of the feedback from the students on these FOSS kits?
You know, the engagement has really increased, and this is my 11th year in this position. And so from year one, from the curriculum we were previously using until now, kids love doing science. They just love doing the hands-on activities. And a lot of the feedback I get from teachers is, they can't wait. They're asking, when are we going to grow this or do this activity? And so it's been really positive.
And what are some, I know we showed some pictures, but what are some of the types of activities that students are doing in these FOSS kits?
So it depends on the grade level and the standards in those grade levels, but I mean, they do anything from separating mixtures to lighting a light bulb, or, trying to figure out how to make a complete circuit, chemical reactions. There's in the 7th grade, they have roaches that they, they study. And so there's lots of engaging activities and materials that pique their interest.
And as a parent or community member, how can I gather more information about these curriculums?
Good question. So the biggest thing for FOSS is obviously it's a published curriculum, but it was written by the Lawrence Hall of Science, and it's published by Delta Education. And so we have something called Clever, and Clever is a single sign-on platform that students use to access most of our online programs. And so they use those login credentials to access the FOSS curriculum, whether it be like the online textbook that they use, and I don't want to say textbook, but the reading materials that they use. And so they access it through the Clever portal.
And then I know your job encompasses STEM. Can you tell us a little bit about STEM and some current things happening in the district?
Sure, that's a good question. So obviously STEM is a broad, covers a broad spectrum of topics. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. But some of the things that we do to engage STEM, we have a science and engineering fair, and this is our 46th year hosting that fair for grades 6 to 12. We have Lego robotics that schools do in K to 8. And we've recently implemented over the last 2 to 3 years computer science and engineering courses in our high schools through Project Lead the Way. And then we also have a drone course where students can actually get their remote pilot certificate through the FAA. It's called a 107. And so we have that course to offer to kids.
Do you guys have any recent actions regarding STEM?
Yeah, so just recently we have a couple of projects that we're able to get off the ground, and we're still getting them off the ground. But one of them is esports, and the other one is called Unruly Splats. And so, Unruly Splats is basically kids learn how to code, and they have these tiles, and so the kids will code it, and then they move around, they change colors, and they light up, and so that's one of the things that we're trying to get off the ground in some of our lower grades. And then the big thing that we're trying to implement is esports. And both of those are in thanks to donations from Chevron. And Chevron's been a huge supporter of STEM in our parish over the last 10 years. And, you know, I'm happy to share our we recently received a donation of $50,000 from Chevron, and to directly to get esports going in at each high school. And so we're excited to do that. There's a lot of logistics to work out, but just having that funding to purchase the computers and the equipment, um, and if for those that are not familiar with esports, it's competitive gaming. And so and one of the aspects of the competitive gaming is LHSAA has recently, within the last few years, adopted it or as a sport, and so that's very helpful to push the program or incentivize the program. And then Nickel State is now offering scholarships for kids in esports, which is really unique and different, for some of those old school guys, but we're looking forward to getting that off the ground. Esports offers a lot of collaboration and includes kids that most were not normally included. Let's say they didn't make the baseball team, but they're great at electronics. Then we can get those kids involved with teamwork, collaboration, and some of those involvement in the school, and hopefully that leads to a STEM field, them pursuing a STEM field in the future. And so we're excited to get that off the ground. And just one side note, and I attended the 200th anniversary of Sports in Terrebonne Parish the other day at the library, and so at the next Stan Gravois is going to have to include esports in the 300th, I guess, in the next one.
Well,
So,
it does sound interesting. It's definitely very unique that we are offering those as well.
yeah.
So lots
Excited.
going on with STEM.
Yeah.
Also with us tonight is Miss Sarah Adams, the math curriculum specialist from the Terrebonne Parish School District. Thank you, Sarah, for coming.
Sure. I'm excited to be here to talk to you.
So what curriculum resources are currently being used in math instruction?
So, for the past several years, we've used a curriculum called Eureka Math, and we've used that for various grade levels over the several years. This year, we have kindergarten through second grade using the original version of that curriculum. Our third through sixth grade students are using the second edition of that curriculum, which is called Eureka Math Squared. We were excited to implement that new curriculum. It's exciting, engaging for students, and very user-friendly for teachers. Our seventh grade through Algebra 1 students use a curriculum called Illustrative Math. It has a lot of visuals in it, and it's very engaging, just like Eureka Math. And then our high school students, our courses in high school use a variety of different textbooks and resources for the electives and things like that.
Can you tell me more about the new curriculum being implemented called Eureka Math Squared?
Sure. So there's a lot about it that's the same as the old curriculum, such as the math concepts and the models that they use to teach it. They are pictorial models that students can kind of use as a tool to fall back on. They continue through grade level to grade level. They can fall back on them when the problems get a little bit more complex, or they have to get into a situation that they're not as familiar with. They can use them as a tool to fall back on to solve problems. So that's the same with this curriculum. There are also still real life connections in the curriculum. They're still solving word problems and looking at how math connects to real life. Things that are different about it that we were excited about were that the student books are printed in color, as well as the teacher editions. The teachers have seemed to be excited about that they can see the curriculum in color. That gives them color codes for what to do throughout the lesson. There are illustrations that are in the book, not just for show. They're there to support students that are maybe a struggling reader. It's to support them in their math learning and to not let a reading struggle prevent them from being successful in math. So that's another upgrade that we're excited about. There are also videos that are to show them real life connections to math, and also they kind of they trigger discussions between the kids. So they show a video and then they get to talk about what's going on in the video. And then one last thing, I guess, is there's instructional routines built into the curriculum. So there are things that the students can get comfortable with or familiar with as the school year goes on. They get used to what does it mean to do a notice and wonder. That's one example. So they have to look at a problem and just discuss what do they notice and wonder about a problem. So those continue through the whole curriculum. Sixth grade is a little bit different. It has some interactive lessons, and that's really great for our students that have one-to-one. They can, everybody has access to do the interactive lesson and to do something on the computer with the lesson. But to summarize, it's just really, it's engaging, and the upgrades are something that our teachers and students are excited about.
As a parent or community member, how can I acquire more information about the math resources that are available?
Okay, I'll start with Eureka Math, since our kindergarten through sixth grade students are using resources from Eureka Math. As you can see on the website, it's called greatminds.org. Great Minds is the company that publishes the curriculum. You can see that there are both curriculums there, and there is a section that is called Family Engagement. There are some resources there that are great, as well as their blog. The research is great also, but I think the Family Engagement page is very helpful, especially one resource there in particular, which I have a sample for you to look at. It is a page that comes out of the student book that is in every grade level from K to 6, and it has a problem that is worked out and explained for you. So if the student has a problem that they have to solve in a homework book, for example, there would be an example there for you to see how it is solved in class. And so if you're not really sure of the process to get to the answer, these are really helpful for families. Students also can bring home their textbooks or their workbooks. They can also access the curriculum through Clever. Like Nathan spoke about earlier, there's an app there that says Great Minds, and the students can log in there and access their curriculum materials. For for Kindle Hunt, which is our illustrative math publisher, everything is available online on their website, kindlehunt.org, and that is an open source curriculum. So everything there is what we use in the classroom. They also have their book version that they can bring home if they need to. And then for our high schools, they have a textbook in class, and they're always welcome to ask their teacher if they can bring home a resource or a textbook.
All right,
So.
thank you for that information. Also joining us tonight, we have Miss Lacey Oliver, the Social Studies Curriculum Specialist. Thanks, Lacey, for being here.
Absolutely.
What social studies curriculum do our teachers currently teach?
So currently, we do not have a set curriculum for social studies. The state puts out a set of standards and GLEs, which are grade level expectations for each grade level. And then for each grade level, they provide a companion document that has a list of priority content for teachers to use. And that's essentially what they need to teach. And so in order to teach that content, teachers use a variety of resources. We have the scope and sequence that the state puts out. And we also have recently purchased the DPQ project. It's a print and online resource that teachers can use in class for students to analyze sources. It's actually a six-step process, and it has students reading content, analyzing sources, making claims, and providing evidence, and then it ends with an evidence-based essay. And so it's brand new. Teachers were provided with training at the beginning of the school year, and we will also have a follow-up training in January. We have textbook and workbook resources, and then teachers a lot of times have to just create their own activities to teach the priority content.
And what are some of the challenges in social studies?
And so I would say the biggest challenge in social studies is keeping students engaged. A lot of times students kind of go into social studies classes with the idea that history is boring. And so what we're doing to try to help that situation is for the past 2 years, we've had Dawn Venus with Social Studies Success come to our parish and provide professional development for teachers. We do it during the summer. We pay teachers to come. We really would want them to participate, and they all leave and they love it. It's just a great training, and it helps them with student engagement strategies, student discussion strategies, because that's really what we want to see. We want to see students talking and discussing history, and that's how they learn the best. We also have purchased them Kagan books. So Kagan is a cooperative learning. They have several different books, and they have some that go for just social studies. And so we purchased the books for the teachers to use as resources as well to find new strategies.
And I know, just as Nathan and Sarah did, how can a parent or community member find information on the curriculum social studies?
They can access the DBQ project through Clever, and they can also for grades 6 to 12, sorry. And then grades 3 to 5 can access their Gallopade workbook through Clever. And so it's that single sign-on where they can just get onto it and they can get to any program or resource that we have available for them. Parents can also reach out to teachers to see if they have a Google Classroom set up. Most teachers have one, and they put all of their resources and activities and assignments. And parents are able to get notifications if they add their email address so that they can kind of see what's going on in the classroom. We are actually in the process of creating a website for curriculum for parents to have an easier way to access our instructional materials, resources, pacing calendars, that kind of thing. And the last place they would be able to go to would be the Louisiana Department of Education website. So they have a page just for K-12 social studies resources, and they can get everything they need there.
And what type of new updates do we have coming in the social studies world?
So we have a lot of changes for social studies this year coming up for us. So the standards that we're using now are 2011, were written in 2011. And so for the past year and a half, committees have met and they created new standards. The new standards were approved in March by Bessie. And so the 2022 Louisiana student standards will be implemented next school year, so 23-24 school year. So this school year is being used as a learning year. So the LDOE is they're tiering resources, so they're trying to find resources, tiering resources to see which ones are going to be the best to fit the standards. They're giving us guidance on how to close the gaps because the progression of content is changing. So for example, this year's standards, in third grade, you learn Louisiana history, and then you don't learn it again till 8th grade. And then in 6th grade, you learn world history, and you don't learn it again till high school. So our new standards, Louisiana history is actually built into every single grade level, whether you're learning world history or U.S. history. And it's going to be more of a progression, where 4th and 5th grade will be world history 1 and 2, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade will be U.S. history 1, 2, and 3. And so that's one of the biggest changes. And that's going to be the biggest issue we have is teachers learning new content and closing the gaps for the students who maybe missed U.S. History 1. Another big change we're going to see with the new standards is that the LEAP in high school is going to transition from U.S. History to civics. And so they'll be taking that in the 9th grade, whereas right now they take U.S. History in the 11th grade. And so the purpose behind that was to get all of the LEAP assessments taken in 9th and 10th grade and leave your 11th and 12th grade years for college and career.
So we definitely have a lot of changes coming up.
There are a lot of changes.
Well, thank you for that information. I'm going to go ahead and go back to Mr. Nathan. I know before, during the break, we briefly talked about the science fair. Can you go over some of the details of what takes place with the district science fair?
Sure. It's probably a 30-minute discussion, but in the last couple of minutes. So the fair is going to be held January the 31st of next year at the Houma Municipal Auditorium. And like I said earlier, this is our 46th fair, and so it was established in 1977, and most people are familiar with it. And so some of our sponsors I'd like to recognize is LeBlanc and Associates and the Terrebonne General Health Systems, Healthy Lifestyles. They've been some major supporters over the last few years for us, and they help sponsor T-shirts for the kids, for the first place winners. And so when kids qualify, they'll go to the state fair, which is held at LSU. It's something that's unique to our fair is we're an affiliate of the International Science and Engineering Fair, where it's held. This year is going to be or 2023 is going to be in Dallas. And so we support or send 2 kids, pay for their expenses. And that's a week event in Dallas where they get to compete internationally. And so, which is pretty unique competition. One of the things, and I guess a side note is I'm looking for judges. So if anyone's interested, my email can be found on the website. And I'm always looking for people to help out and judge that fair on the 31st. But something else I was going to add is one of the reasons, why do we do science fair? And so it provides students choice, but most importantly, it has kids doing science, and we want kids to have done science, and it takes it from the ground floor, which is really kind of a challenge for those kids to have that, to identify a topic and whatnot, but that is how they're going to learn from that struggle, and that, it puts a challenge to them, and, hopefully they gain, grow from that and completing a project before they wind up in college and doing science.
So it sounds like we have a lot going on with the science fair. And I know before we had mentioned that math can be involved and social studies can be involved in the science fair.
Yeah, one of the things is one of the strategies that we're promoting this year and really think is going to help kids in the long run is it's called CER, and it's claim evidence reasoning. And so one of those things is when they develop a topic and they have to answer a question, they're going to have to make a claim based upon the evidence that they gathered, and then reason out why it happened that way or not. And so I think that carries across through math and social studies.
Absolutely.
Yes, for sure.
Well, it looks like our time is up. I want to thank you all for the information tonight. Very good information out to our guest. It was a pleasure having you all on the show.
Thank you.
We would
Thank
like
you.
to thank you, our viewers, for watching. Don't forget to join us every Tuesday on Going Public. Good night.